I'm not sure who they was.
Then we know that.
Yeah, it was a very close game, according to the spread.
Welcome, everyone. Call to order of the Community Development Authority of the City of Greenfield. Second item on the agenda, roll call of participants.
Alderperson Bruce Bailey.
Present.
Alderperson Carl Kastner.
Present.
Don Carlson.
Present.
Troy Chwanek.
Present.
James Hodson is excused. Robert Celine is excused. Ben Rucka.
Present.
Stephanie Kosmeter is excused. And Chair Steve Piotrowski.
Present.
Piotrowski. No, she has it spelled wrong. It's TR.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, sorry.
no problem. Not the first. Not the last. No. Item number 3, review and approval of the minutes from our last meeting on June 20th of 2023. Seeking a, if
I'll make a
no
motion to
discussion.
approve. Second.
Second. Okay. Item number 4.
No.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, a public hearing regarding proposed amendment of the project plan of tax incremental district number 6. I have a motion to move into a public hearing.
I'll make a motion to move into a public hearing.
I'll second.
Okay. We are now in public hearing regarding, no, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are now in a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. What we have before the CDA tonight is an increase in project costs to TID 6. TID 6 is the 84 South area, and then you may recall last year we did a boundary amendment to add this vacant land here, which will eventually be developed with multifamily townhouse style development. So at this evening's meeting, what the CDA is, what's being proposed before the CDA is an increase in project costs, not a boundary amendment. The increase, the highlights are in red text, to increase a donation from TID 6 to TID 8. So when you are the donor TID and you supply funds to another TID district within the city, only the donor TID is required to go through an amendment, not the recipient, per state statutes. So that's why we're seeing an amendment to only to TID 6 tonight. No amendment needed for TID 8. And this is an increase, proposed increase of almost $4 million. The CDA, the Common Council, and the Joint Review Board approved an original donation of $16 million in 2022. This proposed increase moves it up to $19.9 million. TID 6 does have enough revenue to pay for its current project costs, and there's been a financial analysis that there's enough excess revenue to pay for eligible project costs in TID 8. TID 8 is the Loomis and Layton development that you see under construction, 43rd Loomis Layton area by Starbucks there. Also, the proposal includes an increased cost of issuance expenses by $400,000 and an increased interest cost of about $7 million. And we do have our financial analysis Representative Joe Murray here from Ellers this evening. And if you want to dig into those expenses and the details of finances, I'm going to have the expert Joe explain that to you instead of myself. We also have our outside legal counsel, Debbie Tomchek, representing the city in the negotiations for this particular amendment. Debbie is with Reinhardt, and if the CDA has any of those questions, and Debbie can provide maybe some additional information as we move along here as well. So the amendment is a total project cost increase, those 3 red highlights above, totaling just over $11 million. This proposed amendment does add 2 years to the life of TID 6, which is 84 South TID. So it was projected to close in 2038, last year's amendment. Now it's proposed to close in 2040. The state statute does allow a mandatory life of up to 2043 for this particular TIF district, so we're still within the mandated life period of TID 6. So we're talking a lot about TID 8 in the TID 6 amendment, and I just kind of wanted to remind everyone what the plan is for TID 8 and the current status. So TID 8, you've got get your barriers straight, Loomis here and Layton Avenue here. Here's Starbucks, the orange building. Under construction is about a 30,000 square foot medical office building. And also under construction is Building A, as Cobalt refers to it. This is a apartment building, multifamily, 3-story. Building B and Building C are planned for the future. So we'll talk about Building B and Building C here in a minute. The but-for test is always important for when analyzing a TIF amendment, a TIF creation, any amendments from then on. So the but-for test, again, a financial analysis has been done by Ellers. Construction and financing for apartment building B and building C within TID 8 would not occur but for the additional donation of TID 6. So TID 8, the construction literally will stall and pause. They will not be able to move forward with buildings B and C, but for this additional financing donation from TID 6. So the developers, why do they need this additional funds? The developers' cost of capital has doubled due to increased interest rates and construction cost increases. This is nothing new to any of us here in the room. It's it's talked about in the news. You hear it from every developer. It's the state of our economy today. Interest rates are 6%, 7%, 8%, 8%. When this was originally approved, we were talking 3%, 4%. That is a huge factor when you're talking about big construction projects like these. There are 2 development agreement amendments that are drafted that Debbie has done significant negotiations with Cobalt, hours and hours and hours and hours of meetings with Ellers, with Reinhardt, the city all together, and Cobalt negotiating these terms and modeling. And so they are drafted. New development agreements would come before the Common Council. Those amendments remove funding for future development at TID 6 and TID 8. So we're not relying on future development of TID 6 anymore. We're not relying on future development of TID 8, the northern end of the freeway. This is basically status quo, and it can fund this can work financially. If and when future development does take place on the north end of TID 8 and the remaining pads at TID 6. So we've got the corner of 84th and Layton that can and will be developed someday. There's a smaller pad just west of the building where Mod Pizza, Great Mac and Cheese is. And then there's a larger pad on the north end between Steinhuffels and the Aurora parking structure. So there's room, there will be future development, but this amendment's not relying on it. Okay, it can hold its own as it is today. The amendment no longer counts on funding future development. So if and when future development does take place, there's no earmark in this amendment for them. Do we project that a future development would come and ask for funds? Maybe. Probably on the north end for sure, but that has to fund itself. It can't rely on this and past amendments. The development agreements state that there will be no MRO payment to Cobalt on Building B until they've actually completed construction and have an occupancy permit. Same with Building C. And also we have personal guarantees from Cobalt and Robert Joseph. Robert Joseph is the partner with Cobalt for the multifamily. Cobalt's not a multifamily developer, so they partnered with Robert Joseph, who's an established residential multifamily developer in the Metro Milwaukee area. In case you have not driven past it recently, this is Building A under construction, taken about a week and a half ago. And then just some interior shots just to show you where they're at. They do anticipate occupancy, I think before 2024. And they have the clubhouse completed as well. So pretty soon, I think they have 200 names under interest of pre-leasing. That doesn't mean they're pre-leased, but they have to have 200 names on this interest list. So it's a great start. Okay, so with that, I don't know if Debbie or Joe, if there's any information that you want to add or.
Good evening. I'm Joe Murray from Ellers, proud to be the city's financial advisor. Christy did a great job walking through all that. I don't think I need to spend a whole lot of time. She hit the important points about how this is going to increase the donation from TID 6 to TID 8 by roughly $4 million, up to just under $20 million. As she said, it is being driven by TID 8's interest cost and construction cost being quite a bit higher than they were even when we were standing in front of you in the end of last year and you did the last amendment. I also want to reemphasize that, and Christy talked about it, we, in this amendment and in all the modeling, we have pulled off any future development expectations. Instead of expecting development on the north side to help pay for the south side, we've pulled it out and it's kind of separated everything to make it all stand on its own. So we've tried to make this more conservative. Debbie and the development agreements have also been more conservative and are tying things to actual construction and occupancy in terms of them, Cobalt receiving any payments. And the payment terms for the MROs are being more backloaded than they were originally expected and requested by Cobalt, the developer. The last thing I do want to make sure, two things. One, Ellers did not do a financial analysis of the project. We reviewed the cash flow and do the modeling, but we were not asked to perform a financial analysis of the amount of money that Cobalt wanted or needed, if that was appropriate. I just want to make sure that is clear. The other thing is that some of the changes as part of this amendment and getting more conservative with the development assumptions moving forward, there are some changes for what is expecting to happen. It's not to say things can't change, but I want to make sure everybody understands. There was a development incentive in TID 6 for the local. That has been something that's been nibbled on but hasn't been landed, and right now that incentive has been pulled off. If it comes back, it can come back in, but that is off right now, not included in the projections. Funding for anything on the north side on Loomis Crossing has been pulled off the table. Again, there's no development on the table at this point. When that comes back, as Christy said, the expectation is that the developer will come back looking for some assistance, and it'll be evaluated at that time to make it stand on its own, but that is not included as part of this right now. And lastly, funding for the turf, the skateboard park has been pulled. Again, no development on the north side to help pay for that development. I know that has been a big talking point in all these discussions on TID 8 from the get-go, but I just wanted to make sure everybody understands that at this point, those are not included. They can come back as development happens and comes back, but right now, they're not included. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or turn it over to Debbie if she has anything to add. Yes, sir.
What was the pullback for the skateboard park?
It was about $7.5 million, I believe.
My understanding is the engineering department is working on alternative funding. It won't be as elaborate as that $7 million could have funded, but it's moving forward as it's moving forward.
And does anybody know what the shape of the outlay is of the high mounds of dirt and rocks all over the place on the north side of project number 8? Are we gonna do something with that, or we're just gonna leave it there until we can find somebody to, I mean, I don't think we should really leave it that way, do you?
I do believe it's going to be that way for a while. I do also believe Carl and Bruce might be able to confirm, but I think that there's some sort of agreement to use as a staging for crushing during the 894 construction.
That might be that'll slow things up there.
Yeah.
Can't be as bad as the pile on 124th and Layton.
But let's not compare A to B, okay? All right, I'm living next to this district, okay, and I listen to everybody that's in there.
No, I can't,
And
I'm saying
it
that
is just, you know, we've been taken advantage of, okay? So, the other question that I have, what about the hotel, or not hotel, but the vacant land that is in TIF 6? Right on the corner of 84th and Layton. You would think that is prime territory, and I just went down to the city of Milwaukee, and if I saw I saw 7 tall cranes under construction in the city of Milwaukee downtown, okay? But I don't see anything going on over there.
I'll defer to Christie on that.
Now, that's gotta be concerning, right?
I would say there's still activity and there's still talk of further development at that location, even though Cafe Hollander has decided not to spend additional resources. So I think Cobalt, from what I heard today, is actively looking for another tenant or whatever.
Yeah, they are.
occupant
Yes, for sure.
That is very viable, that would probably not need any TIF assistance, is what I was told.
I'm sorry.
Be a good project.
Oh,
So I hear your pain, I agree with you. That corner is,
And plus, they're having a grand opening of a hotel right on Loomis and 76th Street. Okay, type of thing, and if they can do it right next to a not a junkyard, waste management place, okay? So,
I'm getting live text from the developer who's watching. So he did say that they're gonna haul away the pile and the grade and do grading on the north end. I just asked when, so we'll see if I get an answer.
so as long as I got their attention, how about the 2 buildings that needed to be either condemned or whatever, and at least torn down, or have the fire department burn them up?
I don't think he has total control over some of those, so that'd be a hard ask.
You can look at it. All right.
Did the young lady want to say something over here?
I'm Debbie Tomczyk with Reinhardt Burner. I'm just wanted to respond to your question about the big cranes that are those projects in downtown Milwaukee. Those are also multifamily projects. They're not retail projects. That corner on Layton is looking to be a retail restaurant type development. It's a different asset class.
The buildings around the Buck,
The Fiserv Forum, those are all restaurants, but they also went in about 3-4 years ago.
okay.
It depends on timing. Timing makes a difference.
Okay,
Christie? What's what is the project of TID 6 where they're doing the residential? What's the schedule look like for that?
To dates?
Yeah, like,
Loomis and
I'm sorry.
Layton.
For 8?
Loomis?
The B and C.
No, not,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
92nd Street,
Oh.
92nd Street and 6th.
92nd?
And
Yes,
6.
yes.
north of the.
92nd in Allerton. What's
Here we
the
go.
status of that project getting started?
I spoke with Cobalt's partner last week. They are still inquiring about pulling a permit and when can we get a permit. So my understanding is that they are interested, they're planning to move forward in the near term, within the year. And at this point, it would not receive any financial assistance from TID 6 the way the new amendment is drafted.
My understanding is this is the first step to that being developed, believe it or not. Unrelated as they are, they're gonna concentrate on this and then move to that. and it sounds like there's still
Got,
interest.
gotcha. I guess the big question mark is what are interest rates gonna do, right? We don't know. We didn't see that they were gonna be where they're at right now. And there's, I don't know, is there any ceiling in height that, in sight as far as what the Fed's gonna do with those rates? I mean, what happens if rates go to 12%? I mean, are we sticking our neck out here?
If they go to 12%, I'll build my first house like I did 30 years ago.
I guess I don't know where they're gonna stop. And that's a concern, since that's the whole reason why they need this money is because interest rates have. So what happens if they continue to go up before, like, I don't know what their schedule is for B and C, and then what happens if they, I realize that they can't get this money until those get occupancy, but if they're not financeable at the end of the day.
So I wish I knew the answer to your question. I don't know when interest rates are going to stop going up or if they're going to stop going up. I mean, I wish I knew the answer to that too. The reason we've gone through this exercise is to accommodate being able to have Cobalt able to close on their financing for Building B, and that moving forward in short order so you don't see any disruption in the construction out there at Loomis Crossing. Once they close, they'll be locked in at a rate, so that they'll be able, I mean, the financing will close and their lender will be obligated to move forward. And we partnered with them to say, this is what we think is a workable model, and they'll have a commitment to move forward also. There are no guarantees, as you said.
At one point. The other thing about the proposed development agreement and the payments back to Cobalt, they do not have an interest rate. They are at a flat dollar amount, so if interest rates continue to spike, that would mean, and once they start construction, they're locked and loaded. It doesn't mean that the city's automatically obligated to give them any more money if interest rates continue to go up. That's another part of this, to be, again, more conservative and a little bit more protective for the city to make sure that it moves forward.
Something in the back of my mind says there was state bonds when this originally came up, that we were going after some state 20-year bonds or 30-year bonds or something for financing. That's not the case?
I can't think of that, Mr. Rook. I don't recall that as part, and I've been around on the Loomis project for the city for many years now. I don't recall ever any discussion about, there might have been discussion about trying to get some grant money to help.
These were state bonds. And I think they were at the 3% rate.
Well, and we have no financing, that the city's not undertaking any more debt as part of this project.
Okay.
This will be all municipal revenue obligations, so this is performance-based financing. The developer needs to complete their work, they need to get occupancy permits for the new projects, the new buildings B and C, same thing with A and the medical office building as well. It's only PAYGO money, we call it, so they get their incentives once they're done based on their performance. So we are not incurring any additional debt as a consequence of what's happening before you tonight.
Good point.
So where's the money coming from then?
The money for TID 8 or 6?
Usually there's a bond issued, right, for the.
Not on every deal. You see a bond issue typically if the city were to want to front the cost for some infrastructure or provide a large cash incentive to the developer, which did happen on TID 8 to the tune of, I believe it was $16 million. That was given back in 2021 when Cobalt had all the property under options, and they needed to close fast and couldn't get $21 million, and the city took that on so that they could get the money, acquire everything on the north and the south side of the Loomis Crossing project with the expectation at that time it was going to move quickly. There was a lot of positive expectations going forward, and things have changed. Just the markets have changed. As Debbie said, there's nothing in this amendment calling for the city to issue any additional debt to take on any more risk associated with the project. The MRO, or municipal revenue obligations, as she says, is a pay-go. The developer only gets their money if they develop and perform the way they're supposed to. If they don't, if they come in slower, they get less money. If they come in better or faster, I believe it's got an accelerator, or no?
Come back to the table to negotiate.
Okay. But it doesn't mean an increase in value. It's set at a capped amount going forward. So obviously the developer has the incentive. They want to get built as quickly as they can. They want to get as much value out of that development as they can, so they can get their money as fast as they can. So there are no additional, as part of this amendment, there is no additional debt being proposed on the city's behalf. That may happen in the future, as I said, if some of those other projects come back in and the development happens. But at this point, it's not on the table, and the city's pulled back into being more conservative, and we'll wait and see when there's something really there before we're going to invest a lot of money for infrastructure if development might not be happening in the next year, 5 years, what have you.
So it's only coming from the increment then?
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of explain it as kind of like a second mortgage. The bank sees this document, this agreement that the city and the developer have entered into. The city's promising, okay, so Cobalt's increase, Cobalt's value increases, let's just say hypothetically by $1 million. They pay a property tax bill based off that increment. They write a check to the city, they pay their property taxes. The city then writes a check back to Cobalt, who pays down what I call that second mortgage, that MRO. That's the MRO payment. So they obviously are relying on themselves for an increased increment in order to obtain those payments back to themselves. And we have set dollar amounts, as Joe mentioned, of how much the city would pay them.
Right.
Any further questions in the public session? No? Hearing no further questions, a motion to close the public session?
Oh, motion to close public hearing.
Second?
Second.
Okay, moving on.
All in
All those in
favor?
favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to number 5, consideration and possible action of a resolution approving an amendment to the project plan for tax incremental district number 6.
Make a motion to approve the resolution for the amendment to the project plan for tax increment district number 6.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Do we need to do a roll call vote?
We might.
Thank you. Alderperson Bruce Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Carl Kastner.
Aye.
Don Carlson. Troy Chwanek.
Aye.
Ben Rucka. Steve Piotrowski.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, item number 6, I don't think we have a set time, so that'll be as needed. Item number 7, do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we
All
are
in favor?
all in favor.
Aye.
Any opposed?
You can see we do this
Carries.
so regularly.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
It's kind of a consensus meeting more than an actual meeting.
I guess I was just thinking that